Hello, you're listening to ReedyGeeks, a Walt Disney World podcast. My name is Andrew, and I'm joined today by Lieutenant Beck's first mate, Sean.
Respect. He's well. Actually, no. I would say I am his first mate. It wouldn't be the other way around. I work for him.
And Uncle Orville's first customer, JJ.
Absolutely. Let's get that air cooling thing off the ground.
In today's episode, we introduce a new spotlight series on Disney resorts. We're going to start with the Caribbean Beach Resort at Walt Disney World. So this week, we're diving into Disney's Caribbean Beach Resort, Walt Disney World's first moderate hotel, and a step up in expanding the resort experience beyond just the parks. From its colorful island theming to its role in Disney's evolving hotel strategy, we're exploring how the Caribbean beach came to be, how it changed over time, and what makes it stand out today. So I am going to start our session off, our spotlight of the Caribbean beach off, with some historical context, Sean. Some historical context.
A history episode with historical context. I love it.
How excited and blessed are we?
Because we can't just say, oh, this is what the Caribbean Beach Resort is. We have to explain how it came to be. And for that, we have to start, where Walt Disney World started, right? In 1971. Or actually even before that. So Walt Disney, the guy, not the world.
There was a guy?
There was a guy named Walt Disney.
No.
Spoiler alert. So Walt Disney had always planned for a group of hotels within his Disney World complex. But after Walt's death, the Imagineers constructed the theme park and hotels from the original plan, and they deferred the rest of the hotels to phase 2. So we ended up getting the Contemporary, the Polynesian, Fort Wilderness Resorts. They all opened with the Magic Kingdom in 1971. The Golf Resort, which is now called Shades of Green, that opened in 1973. These early resorts were uniquely designed with a cohesive theme, and they connected to the Magic Kingdom, setting a really high standard. So for the next 15 years, there really won't be another Disney hotel built. So Disney at this point is essentially 2 theme parks once Epcot opens, and 3 hotels and a shopping village. That's about it. By 1984, the Walt Disney World Resort was starting to struggle a bit, with attendance falling from 14 million in 1978 to 10.8 million in 1984.
Oh, wow. That's only 2 years after Epcot.
Right. Well, the opening of Epcot...
I was going to say, what led to was it just people felt like they had seen and done, and they had seen everything there was to see in Disney World, they just weren't going back?
Well, we do have in the 1970s, which every history of Disney World has to bring up, the oil crisis, right? So that is going to, yes. So in the 1970s oil crisis kind of subdues the attendance at Walt Disney World. People aren't flying as often as they do today. So the main transportation to Walt Disney World is by car, and that uses oil, right? Uses gas, and that's going to be expensive. And hard to come by.
Right, because that's the days of in New York, we had apparently there was even and odd days. You wouldn't have to get gas on a certain day.
My parents would tell those stories when we were doing, what was it? Was it Sandy? Gave us real gas problems. Well, phrasing.
Boys, watch your manners.
Yeah, they would say, oh, eventually we're going to go back to even and odd days. And I was like, what are you talking about? And then they would tell you in ad nauseum.
Well, JJ had mentioned the opening of Epcot Center in 1982, right? That really did not reverse the trend of declining attendance. It primarily caused the same shrinking attendance just to stay an extra day.
Yeah.
So the construction of new facilities, new hotels, they were all tied to Epcot Center's success. Disney had a problem here. Walt Disney World Vacation was widely being considered only for the rich. Let's think about it for a second. We're only 3 hotels, right? The Polynesian, the Contemporary, and the Golf Resort. All 3 of those hotels are pretty expensive to stay at. Now, you do have Fort Wilderness resorts and campgrounds, right? Or at this time, it's just Fort Wilderness campgrounds. But the Fort Wilderness campgrounds, as a little anecdotal from from my family that went there often was always packed and always maxed out, right? So people kind of perceived Walt Disney World as being, a little bit for the rich. If you're going to stay on property, then you have to be wealthy. Their economic studies actually confirm this too, that building more luxury hotels would only shift the existing upscale guests from off-property resorts like the Four Seasons or, nicer resorts. It would just shift them onto Walt Disney World, but it wouldn't do really anything for park attendance. Here's an interesting statistic that approximately 75 that the people that stayed on property at the resorts like Contemporary and the Polynesian, they earned approximately 75% more than the average Walt Disney World visitor.
So on-property guests were all wealthy.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
I wonder what that statistic still is.
I was going to say,
high.
It seems like it's even like maybe there was in the 90s and 2000s, maybe there was a dip when, we're going to talk about certain things opening and giving more opportunity to the middle class, I guess, if you want to call it that. But I've voiced on the podcast that I think Disney today is specifically catering to the wealthy, catering to the people that can afford to spend a ton of money. It's the idea that they're already spending this much. Let's see how much more we can get them to spend with these extra offerings, upgrades. They're only building DVC hotels now. They're incentivizing you to join DVC. So Disney, and also when you talk about Disney World, to go to the mall and grab 20 random people and ask them what's the first thing they think of when they think of a Disney World vacation. It's expensive. Yeah, that opinion I don't think is different today.
Yeah, I wonder if that statistic has changed at all.
I think maybe it dipped. I really do. I think that maybe in the 90s and 2000s when people were traveling a little more, and again, we're going to get into the openings of more better. What a great sentence. But better offerings. But I think especially today, the opinion that Disney is catering to the rich, specifically, and that Disney World is a rich person's vacation, is maybe higher than it's ever been.
Yeah, certainly higher than 10 or 15 years ago. I think that's the impression.
And, I think that in some respects it is fair to say that, but in other respects, I think Disney sometimes gets a bad rap because, hey, they came out with Lightning Lane priority, whatever that is, right? What's the highest Lightning Lane you can get where you can
Premier
go on
Pass.
Premier Pass. Thank you, JJ. Yeah, so they came out with Lightning Lane Premier Pass, and then people hear that figure of like $400 per person per day, right? And that is what makes people think, oh, this is very expensive. But you can go to Disney World and not get Lightning Lanes. And like this summer, there's low crowds right now, and it's probably not very, it's not necessary. You don't even have to have Lightning Lanes. People feel like they do.
We can probably do a whole episode on that, but I think it's a fair thought that you're paying $160, $170 to enter the Magic Kingdom, and they want you to spend hundreds of dollars more on top of that park ticket to ride their rides that you can ride for free. So there is a bit of a validated, I think, feeling that Disney is trying to reach so far into your pocket they're touching your knee. So we can do a whole episode on just that, but
I think, though, at this point, though, everyone was thinking that Disney is really not offering a mass market product in order to attract people of modest means to come and stay at Disney World. Analysis of the local lodging market in Orlando, it did say that, hey, there are places for people to stay. Like there are tons of Holiday Inns, Days Inns, things like that. But there really wasn't a affordable resort feeling location in the Orlando area. And this was a market opportunity for Disney. If they could create a resort that has sports, multiple pools, multiple dining options, something like that for someone that makes modest means, then that's an area of growth that Disney can get in.
Right. And maybe an untapped market, a potential for a middle class to enter the fold of the Disney resort visitor.
Right. And so this is where, in my research, I was like, all right, let's enter Michael Eisner, right? But
Can we get him on the pod?
Here he comes. What can we get? Enter Michael Eisner. But actually, it's enter Ron Miller. Ron Miller is the one who really champions the idea of a moderate resort and wants to create a moderate resort. He contacts a European company. Get ready for this one, guys. Ready?
Oh no.
And to the audio listeners, we're probably going to try this a couple times here.
You've got this.
Vendorador. I can't be right.
I mean, your guess is as good as mine.
Can you spell it?
I'm gonna put it into the chat. This is great. Great audio here.
This is great content.
Great audio.
They have
None
to
of this
know.
is getting cut.
The audience has to know what happens. Vendorado?
Vendorado.
You said
Vendorado, yeah.
You said Vendorador, and I was like, that sounds great. The way that word looks does not look like the way you said it. Vendorado.
Yeah, I would say Vendorado as well.
Vendorado. I was practicing saying it earlier today. It was.
I believe you so much.
It's the only thing he did today because it's the summer.
He's just driving home. Vendorado.
So he reaches out to European chain of resorts, Vendorado, now called Center Parks.
That's so much easier.
So much easier to say.
I know. I probably should have just went with Center Parks. But, and the idea here is to create bungalow parks. So it's going to be similar to actually what DVC ends up being. 1 to 2 bedroom bungalows or villas that are going to have a central sporting facilities, various dining options. They're going to have kitchens in there, living areas, right? These are supposed to be more of like your home away from home, what DVC now offers, right?
Huh.
And they're very successful in Europe. They boast a 95% occupancy rate. And so Ron Miller actually gets the company to say, hey, we'll partner with you and we'll operate these resorts on Disney property. However, corporate politics really get in the way, and the plan never gets off the ground, especially because in September 1984, Ron Miller is forced out of the company now enter Michael Eisner. Right.
All right.
So Michael Eisner,
is this
when
more
he comes,
of a villainous entry?
What's the saying? Everyone's villain is someone's hero, something like that, right?
It's like when Jerry Jones bought the Cowboys
Michael
and immediately
Eisner
fired. What's his name? Who's the coach? Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson. Yeah. Everyone's villain is someone's hero. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, right. Or everyone's hero is someone's villain. So something like that. Either way, Michael Eisner had a much different mentality towards businesses. Like Ron Miller and Card Walker, these guys wanted to be good neighbors to Orlando. They didn't want to compete directly head to head against different businesses in Orlando. Because they figured, hey, listen, if the tide rises, all boats go up, right? The high tide rises all boats.
Yeah.
So, they wanted everyone to be successful. They wanted Orlando to become successful, and then knowing that then Disney will be the big kid on the block. Right?
And I think that's true. That's shown true today because there's so with how many vacation, condo, townhouse, whatever, timeshare communities there are right off Disney property, right within 10, 15 minute driving. Disney could very easily swallow those up for next to nothing. But they don't. I think they purposely don't do that because of that exact you want the area to thrive. You want the area to be you want the area to be successful because ultimately, even if people aren't staying on property, if they're staying there, they're still coming and giving you their money.
Right.
And it's the city that your employees are coming from, like all the cast members.
Right. Yeah. People that work
their
there
town.
live there. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, Michael Eisner comes in. He has a different strategic. He has a different strategy for expansion. Number one, he wants to bring more things in house. So he doesn't want other companies to be operating hotels on Disney property. Before Michael Eisner, the idea was that we're Disney. We're not a Disney company. In fact, the company's name was Walt Disney Productions, right? They were primarily a movie production company, and they're not a hotel company.
Right,
they're going to
get
other people.
Yet. Yeah.
Yeah. They're going to get other people to operate them. Michael Eisner wants to operate them. He gets into a fight with Tishman over the building of the Swan and Dolphin, things like that. But he likes this idea of a moderate resort, and he likes that he could take business away from other surrounding areas. I mean, this is the guy that developed Pleasure Island because Church Street in Orlando was so successful doing what he thought Disney could do better at Pleasure Island. So then he's like, let's make our own club area, right?
Because you got a wonderful imagination.
So Michael Eisner becomes CEO in 1984, and he's aiming to transform Disney World into a multi-day vacation experience. And Eisner's tenure is really notably defined by his love for building new hotels. Most of the hotels that are built in Disney World are built during the Eisner time. Disney's Caribbean Beach Resort is going to be the first moderate level resort at Walt Disney World. It opens in October of 1988, exactly 17 years after the initial opening of Walt Disney World. And it's designed to provide Disney's top-tier service, but at a more affordable budget. At its opening, it's one of the largest hotels in all of Florida, and the resort planned for 2,100 rooms and was built in two phases. First phase opening at the end of 1988. The estimated cost for the 2,100 rooms was $135 million. Imagine building a hotel today for $135 million.
I think they'd have like another dozen hotels.
Yeah. Yes.
Think of all those DVC contracts they could sell.
Yeah. So the way that Eisner went about this, like I said, he wanted to do things more in-house. He didn't have another company build it. The Disney Development Company, which was a subsidiary of Disney that did a lot of building during that time, they managed the completion of the Caribbean Beach Resort. Peter Rummel, the president of DDC, the Disney Development Company, he stated that their challenge was to create value through entertainment architecture. And this is something that Eisner really valued, was the architecture, right? He wanted to make sure it was functional, economical, but that it invoked this like special mood for guests, that you knew that you were still on vacation, that you could be walking through a movie set. It signifies a shift towards Disney's in-house and more directly managed development efforts for its own resorts. So that is kind of our history of how the Caribbean Beach got built.
That's interesting.
That last thing you said is going to be important to a couple other resorts we may talk about in this episode. Just the fact that it's the theming, the specific theming of the resorts.
Yeah.
You're not just staying in a Super 8 in Disney property. It's not just a motel. You're staying in a hotel that has maybe some lesser offerings or some lesser accommodations, but they're still giving you the full like Disney treatment of immersion in your stay. So you never quite feel like you've left vacation when you've gone back to the parks. Whereas other places like Disneyland, if you're staying off property, you go back to that hotel right outside property, you very quickly feel like you've come out of vacation. And specifically
this is like the start of the bubble.
Yeah, I mean,
yes,
it is very much, because there really wasn't much of a bubble before this.
Well, and the bubble really was just what the monorail touched.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Everything the monorail touches, that was it. Everything else didn't matter. It didn't feel like anything. It was mostly nothing.
Yeah. And this the first couple hotels that Walt Disney and Roy Disney and the Imagineers early on had planned. I had mentioned before, they're very unique and they have a cohesive theme. And this could have been a pivotal moment where Michael Eisner and the rest of Disney says, you know what? Theme cohesion, that's for deluxe. And because this is not going to be deluxe, we're going to, this is going to give us an out that we don't have to do immersion here,
Right. And they can just build a Marriott.
Exactly. Right. And to his credit, he continued the precedent that Disney hotels are going to be different.
Right.
Yeah. It's October 1st, 1988. The Caribbean Beach Resort has just opened. As Andrew said, there was more than 2,100 rooms. It's actually 2,112 rooms, so a Mars 2112 room amount of rooms.
October 1st, 1988. The three of us are less than 9 months old.
I'm 5 months old.
Yeah.
Almost 5 months old. Yeah.
I can't do math.
Well, you couldn't do math then either because you were like 3 months old.
Nothing has changed.
So a lot's changed in the last 37 years of the Caribbean Beach opening up. There's 33 guest buildings. When all is said and done with this, it takes up over 200 acres, which is bigger than the Magic Kingdom.
Huge.
So this resort is tremendous.
Yeah.
It's the largest singular thing, really, in Walt Disney World.
Mm-hmm.
It has its own internal bus system.
It has an internal bus loop so there's bus stops. This is the first time they've ever had to do that. This is something that's all over all the resorts from here on out.
Well, maybe we're
with all these external buildings. This is something that happens continually now. So this is a lot of firsts here with Caribbean Beach. There's 5, they call them villages. Villages or islands are each themed to a different Caribbean island, and each village has its own quiet pool, sand, beaches, hammocks, and of course the bus stops that we just brought up. The 5 villages are Martinique, Barbados, Trinidad, Jamaica, and Aruba. So obviously all Caribbean islands. In the very center is a giant man-made lake called Barefoot Bay. And then on the north side in the center, like north center, there is a large building, and it's called Old Port Royale. And that's where the non-quiet pool is, which is called Fuentes del Moro Pool. And it's themed to thank you. And it's themed to an old Spanish fort, something that might have existed from like the conquistadors, water slides, all sorts of fun stuff. A lot of stuff that really makes it feel very similar to these resorts that have already existed in Disney World. So also at Old Port Royale is Calypso's, a food court style dining, and Shutters, which is a sit-down table service restaurant, as well as the gift shops and arcades. So that's kind of your central hub. However, it did not feature check-in or check-out or where you go to Magical Express.
Mm-hmm.
It has... This is insane.
Yeah,
I mean,
when I was reading this too, I was stunned by this.
There's a building called the Customs House.
The Custom House.
which is far away. It's completely... It's on like the southeast corner.
Separate part of the resort.
And you have to go there first to check in. You have to go to their checkout. Could you imagine if you like had a problem, you have to go talk to the front desk? You have to take the inner loop, take a bus to the front of the resort. It seems insane to think about that you can't just like walk up to the front desk and be like, hey, there's a problem with the room, whatever. Like, I got a non-smoking room and it smells like smoke. It's the 80s.
People have been smoking in here. That much is clear.
Also in the Old Port Royale area is volleyball courts and watercraft to rent, so you can go out on Barefoot Bay. So they really do a good job of creating this resort, and you really all the buildings are are different colors and, very much sells the Caribbean theme. And, this is peak Michael Eisner, right? So the theme has to have some crazy backstory, right?
Yes. What is this backstory?
Well, I'd like you guys to, someone want to make a guess as to what maybe this theme could be?
I think it's got to be pirate themed. Maybe this has been a resort that was like attacked by pirates or something like that, and that's like what the pirates like ship it crashed, and that's why you're playing in the pirate ship for the slide and everything in the pool.
These are great guesses.
This seems like a very detailed, knowledgeable guess.
These are great guesses. They're all wrong. The theme is
good. It seems like Andrew is giving us the answer in the form of a guess.
The theme is you're on a Caribbean vacation. That's it.
Oh.
Yes.
No, Michael.
It worked.
Don't do that to us.
I mean, look, I'm mad too. I thought this would be some crazy involved story about pirates, treasure, or maybe it's like the beginning of like the SEA, like the Society of Explorers and Adventurers, where like you're on a hunt for some secrets that are in these villages. But no, it's just you're on a vacation in the Caribbean.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Right, exactly. It's
that's not Disney's way. Disney has to make things complicated.
That's not the Eisner way.
It's Disney's way now.
Sort of. But so it's not really story based, it's more mood based.
Mm-hmm.
So what's interesting, and where they did make a distinct delineation besides not having the elaborate story, is also in the rooms themselves. There wasn't Mickey, pirates, princesses. There was no direct Disney specific theming in the rooms. They were well themed. They had bright colors, pastel tones, tropical prints on the bed sheets and curtains, and everything was done specifically to make you feel like you were in the Caribbean, enjoying your vacation. But it was distinctly subdued and way less, Disney in your face. There may still have been some hidden Mickeys, but they were hidden Mickeys, and they were really playing down the cartoon, playing down the Disney stuff. It was an emphasis on escapism and not Disney IP.
Okay.
Which I think people appreciate, because you want to. I can feel a little bit of relatability there, that you don't necessarily want to feel like you've left vacation, but you maybe want to feel like you've left the giant Mickey bubble. You don't necessarily you don't want the Cinderella's castle or the giant characters and everything, but you definitely don't want to just feel like you're going back to the Holiday Inn.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a market for people that, like, I'm in Disney World, I want Disney screamed in my face. And then other people that, like, they want something that feels tranquil and peaceful, and they're trying to give everybody everything, which is, again, something that's kind of noble for Disney to do, where, they want the resorts to be resorts.
And that's how it originally was too.
It kind of lets you live. No, go ahead, Andrew.
It's kind of, it's called the Vacation Kingdom of the World, right? And they put in a ton of golf, and the Polynesian doesn't have or it has theming, but not Disney. You can go water skiing out on you know what I mean? Like, it's supposed to be that it's more than just theme park Disney, that it's actually like a vacation destination. So,
and that's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, that like.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But that's fine. That's. I'm glad I let you go first, because it's a perfect. It's a way to stay on vacation, but have a different vacation. You have your theme park vacation and your Mickey Mouse and castle vacation, but then you have your beach and pool and pool bar and in one vacation, mm-hmm. and that's probably the best for both, because there's people that go on, not every traveling group, not every traveling family is as equally hyped for the Bouse as others may be in there. Some people may look forward more to the resort days, so it's a way to give people everything without just jamming IP down your throat.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. So that's kind of what the resort was like in '88. Sean, I think you have some more information about how it's evolved and where it is at today.
Yeah, so the resort mostly, I mean, like I said, it opens in '88, and it rolls as the only moderate resort for just a few years. In 1991 and 1992, respectively, Port Orleans French Quarter and Port Orleans Dixie Landings, which is now Riverside, opens in Disney World as part of the moderate tier, kind of strengthening that offerings that can appeal to a different income class of travelers. And then in 1997, Coronado Springs opens, and so we're at about 10 to 11 years that Caribbean Beach has been open, while these newer resorts have been opening. They're fresher. Guests want to stay at them more. Caribbean Beach is kind of not aging quickly, but it hasn't really been updated, hasn't really been touched. So in the early 2000s,
And new is always better, right?
Yeah, newer's better.
New.
Right, newer's better, but
Right.
they obviously still want to get people paying money to stay at the older. So in the early 2000s, we're going to call it guests, and for the audio listeners, it's going to be feedback, heavy air quotes, feedback, nay, complaining. The resort is so sprawling. Guests had complained about the transportation, that the resort is so large that it only has a couple buses. So Caribbean Beach expands its bus operation. They add bus stops because people are. I mean, I have never stayed at Caribbean Beach, but I've been there. That's a gigantic resort. That's a resort. Really, really a true just sense of the word resort. That's a resort.
And I'm not surprised that happened in the early 2000s, because that's when it starts to matter that you're rope dropping, and it's more of a go vacation.
All the parks are there and they're open.
Yeah. Yep. But in the 90s, I feel like everything was a little bit more kind of relaxed, and you didn't have as many people in general. You know,
I agree, and it's definitely the time to have been expanding the transportation. A lot of the food options in the early 2000s were enhanced to be more, you want to say, flavorful and representative of Caribbean culture, a little less Americanized burgers and fries and pizza, and a little more paying attention to, Eisner wanted you to feel like you're on a Caribbean vacation, but you're having, stuffed crust pizza.
Right.
You want to have a little more. You want to feel like you're in the environment. Guest room enhancements during this time were made so that they could kind of keep up with, again, Port Orleans, both resorts in Port Orleans and Coronado Springs.
How? That's proprietary.
So, and the major refurbishments and the major changes at this resort don't start till 2017, and the biggest change here is to start with, as JJ mentioned, Old Port Royale, which was the hub of Caribbean Beach Resort, gets the biggest overhaul, and the biggest thing to guest satisfaction, as we've mentioned, it brings guest check-in services to the main central hub of the resort, and it eliminates the old separate booth or building where you have to go and check in.
The customs house.
He comes to the customs house. Yeah. You come to Old Port Royale, you check in, you drop your luggage, bell services, everything is right there. And this was a huge improvement. Imagine such a small thing, such a huge improvement to guest satisfaction. And in 2018, in Old Port Royale area of the resort, they introduced Sebastian's Bistro, as we've dined in. A great place. A family-oriented, claps for Sebastian's Bistro.
Wait, what year was that?
Family-oriented, 2018.
It's that new?
Yeah, because it
2018,
was it was Calypso's or Shutters.
Right.
It was Shutters before.
Wow.
It was a sit-down restaurant named Shutters, but when it gets redone, it becomes Sebastian's.
Yeah, it becomes Sebastian's Bistro, as we know. An all you care, as they say, all you care to enjoy restaurant in the same vein as Ohana. It's a very similar vibe, a very similar feeling, and with the platters they bring around. The Banana Cabana is a poolside lounge and bar that I believe we also visited while we were there, which is right
We
next
certainly
door.
did.
And then taking the place of the old shop and food court. Centertown Market opened up as a quick service grab and go food service court and small, miscellaneous here and there for guests. So the 2017 through 2018 was the big overhaul of the main hub of the resort, which is where guests come first. That's where you need to make your best impression. It definitely was great when we were there. So 2019, Andrew will be very excited.
I've been waiting.
Part of the history is when it adds probably I would say
With bated breath.
the biggest and the most important addition to date at this resort is the addition of the Skyliner, the sixth best ride, as some on this podcast.
I think it's canon for the
say.
podcast.
Not all,
that
say.
it
Not
is
all.
the sixth
Not all,
best
but some.
ride.
But not only is the Skyliner at this resort is a hub for the Skyliner. Really, this brings the resort into the forefront of popularity in staying at a moderate resort. This gives you direct access to Epcot, Disney's Hollywood Studios, and also direct access, which I think aside from the monorail, direct access to another resort from your hotel is relatively unheard of at Disney World. This gives you direct access to Disney's Pop Century Resort and Art of Animation resorts, which are also stops on the Skyliner. So the Skyliner giving Caribbean Beach really a huge uplift in popularity.
I think it's skyrocketed past Coronado and Port Orleans, and it now might be the more favored one to go to. Coronado, though, with the tower, people love that. That tower's great. Yeah.
This definitely brought Caribbean Beach to the forefront of popularity for moderate resorts. And so in 2019, along with the Skyliner, Disney opened up the Riviera Resort on the same property of Caribbean Beach in the Barbados section. And while this is primarily a DVC resort, a DVC guest resort exclusive hotel, it shares a lot of the same pathways and access ways as Caribbean Beach. So it gives Caribbean Beach guests the opportunity to take advantage of some of the amenities of this resort that are not exclusive to DVC members, which includes a place that we've mentioned on this podcast ad nauseum, Topolino's Terrace, a great dining opportunity, and also a great aerial view if that's something you're into. But the refurbishments and the renovations in the 2010s, it can't be argued that Caribbean Beach is not only one of the most popular resorts on property, but I think one of the most important and significant, really setting the scene for additional moderate tiers. Like we said, it set the tone for Coronado Springs and Port Orleans while they continue to expand their hold on moderate offerings there. But Caribbean Beach started and became the resort that allowed a more moderate offering to a guests that wanted to go to Disney on a budget, and it never really strayed from that, and it paved the way for more resorts that wanted to stay in that vein there. Yeah,
this kind of starts, it starts all the moderate resorts, but then it lets Disney also realize, there's a bigger audience here than we realize. We should go even lower. We should go value.
When did the All-Stars open? The All-Stars have been open.
The All-Stars opened in 94.
Yes, I was going to say they've been there. They were there for a little while before
renovation.
Caribbean Beach got its big renovation. But for a while, the All-Star resorts were the only values. Pop Century, I don't think opened up until 2000. I want to say 3, 4. I don't know if it was that. I don't have it in front of me.
Actually,
you think it was earlier?
Pop Century opened maybe in the year 2000 because there was supposed to be a sister resort that got canceled because of 9/11.
December 14th,
and that ends
2003.
up becoming 2000 what?
December 14th, 2003, Pop Century opened up. But that is correct.
Oh, really?
That Art of Animation, Pop Century is the 50s, 60s, and 70s and 80s, I think. That like 4 or 5 decades. And Art of Animation was supposed to be like the Roaring 20s up to like the 40s or 50s. It was supposed to be 2 separate decades of hotels, but because of the decrease of tourism during 9/11, they canned the idea of that side of the resort, and that eventually now is part of animation. Yeah,
That's an episode.
it sure is. But yeah, this was one of the only, I don't want to say the only, but like we've done a lot of episodes that require each of us to do our own separate kind of research. And I was sitting at work today doing research on Caribbean Beach, and I was like, I want to go to Disney World so bad right now.
Yeah. And especially because you got the section where everything's getting updated, everything's getting better. So it's nice.
Everything's new and wonderful.
I think that this was a really great entry for them with the moderate resorts. And I like that they keep tweaking it and making it better. And, really with the Skyliner, it's the crown jewel of the moderates. And it's good because it's the first one.
We did it! Let's eat!
All right, Sean, want to take us out?
Thanks for listening to another episode of the ReedyGeeks podcast. Like, rate, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Any questions, comments, concerns, future topics, titles, nicknames, anything of that nature, email us at reedygeeks@gmail.com and check us out on all our socials at ReedyGeeks. We'll see you next time.
I'm going to give you 4 words to live by. New is always better.
New is always better?
This week's Honest Send-Off comes courtesy of Barney from New York City.
If you have an honest send-off that you want played at the end of one of our episodes, please submit an audio clip to us via our email address, reedygeeks@gmail.com. ReedyGeeks, a Walt Disney World podcast, is hosted and executive produced by Andrew Shopee, Sean Murphy, and JJ Hefner. Music and audio engineering by JJ Hefner.
Voyage